we've always want to maximize what opportunity there is, and we will rise to the occasion to figure it out and make it work. So we've never been, I only want 20% of this insurance and this much of that. They have as much as they can give. And if I'm always someone that's saying, I will always step up and figure it out for you, I think that also then feeds that relationship that they're like, hey, I can count on GNC Auto Body. They'll rise to the occasion because they need to get their cars fixed. I mean, during 2023, business was slammed, the busiest anyone's ever been. And I heard about a lot of people just picking and choosing who they want to work with. I hear a lot of those same people now are going, oh man, I wish I didn't do that. It's a lot slower right now.
Welcome to another episode of the Collision Vision driven by Auto Body News. As always, my name is Cole Stramberg and I'm your host. Today's episode marks the continuation of our latest series titled Insurance Talk, Navigating Insurance and Repairs. It also marks the return of a fantastic guest from long ago. You may remember Patrick Crozat, COO of GNC Auto Body, a fast-growing California-based MSO, from an episode of the Collision Vision from summer of last year. In that conversation, we talked a lot about growth and, at a high level, about using insurance relationships and DRPs to fuel that growth in your business. In today's episode, we're going to take a deep dive into just that, as well as some exciting developments for both GNC as well as for Pat personally. Enjoy the show. This episode is sponsored by Hunter Engineering. At Hunter Engineering, the theme behind all their products is do it right, do it once. So when you're doing alignments, the time to find hidden damage is before you start, not after. The workflow for Hunter's collision alignment system surfaces the trouble right up front by providing 5 additional collision-specific measurements, like toe out on turn, maximum steer, and ride height, to find the problems right away. It's all about efficiency, so find the damage before it finds you. To learn more about Hunter's collision alignment system, visit hunter.com. Enjoy the show. Patrick Crozat, thank you for joining us once again on the Collision Vision.
Thank you, Cole. Good to be back.
Happy to have you. Looking forward to a great conversation as well. You've had quite the ride since we last connected here on the podcast, both personally and professionally. I think that was way back in June of last year. What's been up since then?
Well, I became a father in July. So had my first kid with my wife. Been with my wife since high school, since we were 16 years old. And, we were thinking we were just going to be the fun aunts and uncles. And, I think that biological clock kind of thing happened. And we're like, I do want kids. So we got a wonderful little boy named Cooper, and he's awesome.
Oh, man, congratulations. How fun. How's fatherhood been? That's a whole new adventure. You've been growing a company like crazy. How's growing a person?
Oh, man, growing a person, it's sometimes more challenging, but it's a lot more fun. I love it. I never thought I would love being a parent so much.
How great, man. Congratulations. How about on the professional side? That feels so much less important, but talk to me about what GNC's been up to over the last 12, 13, 14 months.
Yeah, since we talked last, I know we opened 7 shops in the past 7 months. And we opened a few also, I think, before that. So I think in the past year, we've done almost like 10 locations. So
that is big time, man. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on all the success, both personally and professionally. And thank you again for joining us here today. Want to talk about the exciting world of insurance. And I know you and I touched on it in our previous conversation and kind of how you frame that relationship and view it. So I want to dive right in from a very, very high level. I know this is a collision podcast and we get in the weeds pretty quickly, but for those who are less familiar, can you explain what a direct repair program or a DRP is and how they function within the industry and then within your group as well?
Yeah, I mean, DRP, direct repair programs, they have been around since I got into this industry 22 years ago, and they've been around for as long as I think most people can recall. And so, with an insurance company, they want to build a relationship with a body shop where, obviously there's contractual agreements where in turn for referrals from that insurance partner, you're going to make concessions where you're going to look out for the cost of the bill for them, and provide customer service, and you tracked on cycle times, CSI, file compliance, and estimate accuracy, cost per claim. And I think from a body shop standpoint, or if I was to flip the role, and I'd always like to try to put myself in other people's shoes. If I was an insurance company and I have someone that's insured with me, and really I'm the only connection to their vehicle, now the automotive manufacturers are building that relationship with their consumer as well. But in the past, it was really just the insurance company. And if they're going to pay a bill, it's not that often people get into an accident. So if someone's getting in an accident every 5 years or more, and they never even really meet someone at the insurance companies anymore in person. The only person they really have face value with is the body shop. And so, if there's a way for them to be able to control the situation, maybe the overall customer experience of their customers, to go to a shop that is vested in ensuring that guest gets their car done in a certain timely manner, and that they know exactly what the insurance company is looking for, and to ease the process between the claim and the body shop and the insurance company. I see a lot of benefits to the programs.
Fantastic. And I know we talk all the time about some clashing of opinions between DRPs and OEs, like it's this exclusive relationship. But from the perspective of a pretty large MSO, how do you view the role of a DRP and those insurance relationships in terms of GNC's growth?
It's been crucial. I think it'd be very, very hard for any body shop owner to grow to multiple locations without DRP relationships. I think it's always been that way. It's hard to run multiple locations off of a niche. Whether you're doing just high end or maybe some dealership referral. Not many dealerships have a whole bunch of the same owners where they could completely feed a location in every different city. And you're kind of putting a lot of eggs in one basket too with dealerships. They sell and change hands. And so we've always been in the DRP business relationship, even since I was a child. Before I even got in this business, my dad always worked with DRPs, and he was always just a big advocate for wanting it to be a symbiotic relationship between the body shop and the insurance company, and that we're both working towards taking care of our customer. And on the flip side, if you're not in a DRP program, then we should be playing reasonably professional with each other. Shouldn't be steering and stuff like that.
Well put. From again your perspective, what are some of the challenges with working with DRPs versus kind of what are the benefits? And I know those benefits in your case outweigh the challenges, but where do you think the rubs are traditionally when you hear people talking poorly about DRPs?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say just in this industry in general, or just in life in general, there's a yin and yang to everything, right? There's always the opposite. If there's not light, there's dark, right? Vice versa. So there's obviously a lot more admin paperwork to do when you are in a DRP relationship. You are giving your labor down at a discounted price and maybe what your street rate is. And you are focusing on pleasing a second customer in a way. Your insurance company DRP contract is another customer of yours, just like they're referring you their customer, and what they ask in return is for certain things to be done. Over the years, the paperwork and documentation has become more. And there's always still, even if you're in a DRP relationship, there is always a level to perform. There's usually multiple body shops that are on that DRP program in your demographic area. And there is still a level of competitiveness to earn still that business referrals from the insurance company. But I love competition. I think competition is always needed, and it drives businesses to excellence. If someone owns the market and they don't have to work hard for it and they don't have to try and earn it every day, human nature. I think people would get very complacent and they wouldn't give the best job that they could do.
Well said. And you keep, when referring to DRPs, referring to it as a DRP relationship, which I know is in part or in large standard language, but we've talked in the past about the importance of building a strong relationship with insurers through the DRPs to the point where you use that relationship in a way to fuel growth and to get pulled into new markets. Talk to me about that. How have you approached these relationships to ensure they're very beneficial for you?
100%. So if we didn't have DRP relationships, we couldn't have grown the way we have grown, especially more nowadays than in the past. Back when I was a kid, DRP relationships was very much a relationship, and there was a big insurance agents had a huge place in the industry and referrals, and a lot of it was relationships. If some body shop owner had a great relationship with, maybe personal relationship with someone that was in a leadership position at an insurance company, we've all heard the stories out there of things that, they were golfing buddies on Sundays, and it was hard to grow your business. You had to just go and buy someone else who already had that relationship to be able to grow your business. As technology's grown and data has grown and CCC has developed over time, it's easier to gain data from enterprise rental or from CCC, and insurance companies, I think, over time took a big shift and said, hey, let's focus on the actual performance of the shop and the metrics, because that's what's going to drive profitability for the insurance company, and that's going to drive better CSI for their guests, and lower rental days. And so when business referral was able to be gauged and everybody was put on a playing field of CBSA scores, insurance companies really went to, well, who performs the best gets the most referrals from me. And that is where we have really excelled as an organization on performing very well on cycle time and CSI. And because of that, we've been able to earn contracts with insurance companies, or even where they know that if we go put a shop in a market, they know of GNC and they go, we want you on our program at any shop you open, or in most markets that we open, because they know how well we perform compared to the market.
Talk to me about that as well. You, in your growth, crazy, 7 stores in 7 months. A portion of those, if not a large portion of those, are brownfield locations. I imagine that DRP, that insurance relationship, gives you some real confidence in half the battle that's filling the shop with business. Are you getting pulled into markets? Are they telling you, in a sense, where to go? How are you kind of gauging the appetite there as you look at expansion?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's in the past, we've had times where an insurance partner, meetings have mentioned that, hey, they ask us, where are we looking to grow? And what are our future plans? And we may mention markets that we're looking for, and they'll in those conversations be like, hey, you know what? We could really use a shop in that area. So I'm like, okay, great. We'll start looking at it. But really for our growth, it's always been kind of like the web factor. We have one location and we always want another location to be within another city or within a distance of another location to have that support and to be able to build out markets, to have a regional manager that can build out their own market. And so that's kind of how we've always looked. So it's just kind of the web factor and looking at the cities, looking at the distance between things, looking at population size of markets. You can, with your paint manufacturers, usually they can give you market data from an address you're looking at. So you can see what kind of population and market data there is within a 5-10 mile radius of that facility. And then you go on Google Maps and you can plot out your competitors and see how many shops are in certain towns and kind of gauge that by the amount of business there is, and gives you an idea of what kind of business you can earn in a market. But it would have been really scary back in the day to do something like that if you didn't know if you could get the insurance companies and to have that business. Really it comes down to anyone can put a building and a body shop, but can you drive the business into your door, and can you get skilled technicians and staff in the front to run a great business for you?
You mentioned those meetings with your insurers. What are some tips you'd have to build that relationship that you guys have built, and kind of making sure that cadence of communication, like how do you make that a real partnership?
Yeah, so I mean, there is obviously structured meetings, probably at least twice a year, every 6 months, or quarterly with insurance companies, depending on what they would like to have a sit down and then do a review of the overall business. Once you get to a larger MSO, they do look at the overall performance of the entire company and how you're doing compared to maybe other larger DRPs. And so obviously, if I was on the insurance side, I kind of look at it as, okay, GNC right now we have 42 locations. If I was an insurance person that I have a boss too. If I'm, a mid-level manager at insurance, and there's obviously multiple levels above them, and I'm here to perform and do my job for my company, um, would I want to work with 42 separate business owners, all running their business the way they want? Where back in the day, they used to have these big annual meetings where they'd invite everyone that was the DRP, and it'd be a huge conference hall full of all these business owners to try and tell them what their plans are. But with us and with other larger MSOs, they can reach out to one point of contact and say, hey, this is what we want. And we self-manage that internally and disseminate that through the company and give a pretty consistent product.
And you talk about consistency of product. I imagine scale helps with those DRP relationships pretty immensely, right? You become a really important partner with them as you continue to grow and scale. But it brings up some challenges. How do you ensure that consistent communication at all of your 40 plus locations are happening with your insurers, or is some of that role centralized? Walk me through your communication structure with your partners there.
Yeah. And first off, yeah, the more you grow as an organization, there's always going to be challenges in communication, right? The more people you got to communicate, the more people are involved. It's not as easy as if you have one location or two locations to be able to communicate, and communication is key. So with our business, we have a DRP account manager, and that person has about 8 or 9 people under them that all do specialize in certain DRPs, and they work together. And then with CCC, which the majority of those estimates are written in, has central review. So what we do is we also have a complete training website that has every single SOP of our company on there, and then there's breakouts for every single insurance company and all of their processes on there. So there is a reference for every employee to be able to go through and know the process and SOPs and rules what the insurance company wants. You can then work with your parts code table in CCC to ensure that your staff knows right there what they can charge for and what they cannot. Any new person to an account, we trigger where it auto routes all their estimates to our central review to be able to review and train and coach per estimate before it actually gets to the insurance company. And then we have monthly trainings for every single insurance partner that we have that the staff will host for any new hires or anyone that wants a refresher on that DRP and how to work with them. Then there's also a group emails that they put out to every location manager, regional manager, and the writer that's on the program if there's any changes that has come up with a certain DRP, new policy or process, and then that gets added and updated to the SOPs on the training website.
For anyone listening who's intimidated like crazy about the infrastructure that you have in place, I mean, that is an unbelievable level of infrastructure. Granted, you guys are a massive group at this point. What advice would you give to folks looking at getting started building that infrastructure? Maybe there are a couple locations, they don't have that scale, they don't have the resources to have a massive team to support there. Where do you start?
Same way we did, right? It's a 1,000-mile journey. All starts with one step, and all you can do is one step at a time. Or how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. It can look overwhelming at the big picture, and trust me, we have made all of our mistakes throughout the growth process of our organization. And every time you hit new new milestones and new challenges as you grow your organization. For us, the way it actually started was my wife, my high school sweetheart, is the person that's in charge of that entire team. And so we high school together. My wife went through college. She went and got a degree in business and finance. She went to the mortgage industry in 2007, and she was out of it in 2008 when the housing market crashed. And so she didn't know what to do with her life. And my dad was like, "Hey, why don't you come work for the family business?" And so she did. And she never left. And so my wife came up from the ranks from a CSR to a clerical lead to a writer. And she was just the most thorough, detailed writer. And this is where I'm getting with this is I would look internally first on who is a writer in maybe your organization that is on top of everything, very detail oriented and process driven and organized. And so my wife actually became a corporate employee before I did. I was running a location back in the day, and so my wife became the only auditor and the only person doing it and reviewing sheets and teaching people about programs and building these SOPs. She learned how to build this training website, and has been maintaining it ever since. And then my wife actually started a training school. So anytime we would bring someone new into the trade that wanted to be an estimator, we would hire the person what we felt had the right abilities and we could teach them the skills. We wanted to hire the right person that we felt was really smart and bring them into the trade. We've always been a huge advocate of bringing people in this business. So she would put them through like a month-long, basically a foundational course of the basics of estimating, navigating CCC, just writing sheet after sheet after sheet after sheet, learning vehicle terminology, learning all of our as many SOPs in our management system as possible. And then she would graduate them out of that and to then be an apprentice under a journeyman writer at a location.
Man, what a great story. What a great journey. What is your wife's name?
Tara.
Tara. How cool. So many parallels. I think we've probably talked about this offline together, but similar story with my wife. She became a corporate employee before I did in my own family's business, and impact cannot be understated on what Tara and, in my case, Belle can get done. A very cool story of the foundation there. Talk to me. So we've gotten kind of the history, we've gotten the present. I want to know a little bit about what the future of DRPs look like as GNC Auto Body continues to grow. How do you see your DRP relationships evolving?
I think there's always different processes and the vehicles are evolving. Do I really have, in my opinion, the crystal ball of what the future is going to be? I have no idea. We've always seen disruptors in any industry. So I really don't know. I think it's always going to be kind of the same thing, but just maybe with just some different rules or whatnot. So I don't think I've seen too much evolution with insurance partner relationships over the years. I have no idea.
How about with you guys personally? Do you see the number of DRP relationships you have going up, going down? How do you feel about kind of that customer concentration risk and spreading multiple eggs over multiple baskets?
So we always have. So we're out in California. Our entire, all of our locations are. I think every market's different. Every state's different. Some state, State Farm, maybe like 70% of all the insurance in that state. So I think every market's different. In California, being that it's such a large state and a large population, every insurance company is in this state. It's kind of like a battleground, kind of. And so we've always had at least probably 6 minimum DRPs per facility. So a lot of our tenured facilities have like 13 DRPs. So we've always been kind of an advocate of having every DRP is that we can get in our locations, so that we're not having, hoping that all of our business comes from one insurance company all the time, because we know how this is. This industry always ebbs and flows. It's never a steady. We're not building widgets. It's not just consistent. Business one month can be really busy from this insurance partner, and the next month it is the other. So I would recommend going towards having more DRP partners and growing your business to be able to meet all their needs.
Well said. And smart business, right? That customer concentration risk is real no matter what industry you're in. To have multiple relationships, multiple income streams makes a ton of sense. In terms of supplementing that, and in the future, what do you think the debate of OEMs versus DRPs is going to look like? Do you think that's going to heat up a little bit, or do you think more and more are going to go that hybrid route where, hey, why not both?
Yeah, I think it's a hot topic that's been for a while, and I think that the debate will be always continuing. It's been talked about for quite some time that the OEMs are going to have more control over first point of contact and referring that business, and we're seeing that with you see that with all these new automakers that are coming out, Tesla and other manufacturers, where the work there is going directly to certified facilities. And then there's, I think, more and more you're seeing parts that are restricted for certain manufacturers. So we do have some OEM certifications. We are Tesla certified in 11 locations. Tesla's huge in California. It's the home of them, and so it's been a great revenue stream for us as well. In my opinion, if you are going to be OEM certified, make sure you have a very strong relationship and commitment from that dealership, and because there's just like body shops are selling every day to someone else, and business changes. Dealerships are selling every day as well. There's consolidators in the dealership business, and you may have a great and dealerships, from what I've always seen, tend to change general sales managers and service managers often. And so you may have a great relationship with one person. You invest all this money in being certified and equipment and training, and then there's a new GSM that maybe comes from a different dealership, and he likes somebody over somewhere else, or that dealership just got completely bought out by somebody else. So you really got to also market that you're OEM certified and get it out there, and not just trust the dealership for the only referrals, in my opinion.
Talk to me about the metrics you use. I know in talking to you, you're a pretty data-driven person, pretty quantitative, and you operate your business in that way as well. What kind of metrics do you track to measure the success of your DRP relationships? And then how do you use that data and those measurements to drive further success?
Yep. So every single week, the CCC scorecard updates, and so we update a complete sheet of the entire company of the main metrics that matter with DRPs specifically. And then just in our meetings with them, you want to know what matters to them, what matters to each one of these customers and these relationships. And we just make sure our people know how to win with that. We give them that data every single week so they can see how they're doing. And if a store isn't hitting certain metrics, then their estimates are then be routed to 100% review through central review until, if it's an estimatic thing. And then if it's maybe some other performance stuff, they can go on a weekly conference call, the manager and the writer, with the person who's in charge of that DRP account, to review the current claims that are in the shop, ones that are coming in, and do some real-time Q&A to help adjust the numbers. So it's just continuous coaching until people really understand the program and how to win with that insurance contract. Is how we do that with them.
Fantastic. And from a revenue mix perspective, do you have kind of a target revenue percentage of DRPs versus any other medium, or per DRP? Is there a target that you really want to keep certain accounts below or above?
I've never looked at that. We've always want to maximize what opportunity there is, and we will rise to the occasion to figure it out and make it work. So we've never been, I only want 20% of this insurance and this much of that. They have as much as they can give. And if I'm always someone that's saying, I will always step up and figure it out for you, I think that also then feeds that relationship, that they're like, hey, I can count on GNC Auto Body. They'll rise to the occasion, because they need to get their cars fixed. I mean, during 2023, business was slammed, the busiest anyone's ever been. And I heard about a lot of people just picking and choosing who they want to work with. I hear a lot of those same people now are going, oh man, I wish I didn't do that. It's a lot slower right now. So we've never done that. We've always wanted to be a steady rock for everyone wants consistency, right? Everyone, and even insurance partners, customers, employees, our spouses, our children, everybody wants consistency. And so that's what we try to be, is consistent.
Love it. Yeah, folks are paying for those decisions now, and it's a good way to become that indispensable partner for your insurance relationships. I want to end. We've talked a lot about the challenges, the positives of DRP relationships. When you do encounter a challenge with an insurance relationship, say a very, very important one, what's your strategy for solving that and making sure that relationship can be guided through this individual challenge without a problem, but everyone comes to a solution they're happy with?
Yeah, I think just like any relationship is going to have challenges. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. Almost every relationship is a give and take. And just like a friendship or a marriage or anything, it's both parties, my dad always say a good deal is where everyone doesn't get what they want, but everybody's happy and okay with the decision to be made. So there's plenty of times where you may feel that, hey, I feel I deserve this, or I'm entitled to, getting paid this. Maybe this is what happens in the industry, or I know my employee is doing this, and the insurance company maybe only wants to pay XYZ or whatnot, or not at all. It's a business decision, and ultimately, would I want someone to always get everything they want and me never get anything I want? No. So it has to go both ways. When same thing, you're not always going to get what you want with an insurance partner, and that's what it is. It's a partnership, and partnership is everyone gives and takes. And if in the end it quantifies that it's a good business deal for you, then I would make the business decision to try and talk it out with them, show them your side. It's a communication. Again, it's a relationship. So if you're always performing for them and you always say yes wherever you can, and there's certain times you say, hey man, this is really going to hurt me because of X, Y, Z, and let me show it to you, and be open and honest and share the numbers with them. Maybe they'll make a concession with you and work with you on it.
Love it. Great advice in business and in personal life. Spoken like a true family man. Congratulations again on the growing family. Man, you've been so generous with your time as always. I'd ask one more thing of you, and that is any advice that you can give to, call them, a single store operator right now who sees GNC's success and their continued growth. What advice would you have with them in terms of using your insurance relationships to fuel your growth?
First, if you don't know where really your standing is with that insurance partner, I would make sure you can sit down and meet with them and talk about, how can I be a better partner for you? How am I doing currently? Where could I improve? How can I earn more of your business, and how can I grow with you? And see if you can chart that path with an insurance partner. And if that path isn't there, go looking to add maybe more insurance partners, where then you have enough business to be able to open a second location or to take the building over next door or down the street. But you've got to know where you stand and what they're looking for. But you can do it, and you can open a second store. My dad started the company with one location. We grew to 3 locations, and we sat at that for a very, very long time. And then we finally decided we really wanted to grow beyond that. We were growing at 1 store a year. Then it became 2 stores, and then we eventually got to 15 stores before COVID hit. And now we're up to 42 open, and we'll probably be about 44 open by the end of the year.
Sage advice from someone who's doing it right now. Looking forward to continue to watch your just stellar growth and have you back on the show here again soon, talking with you and what you guys have going on. There's so many different ways to take a conversation. So I'm happy we could take a deep dive into that insurance relationship here today. Pat, where can people learn more about GNC, and where can people get in touch with you if they want to talk more?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I'm on that a lot. I have my own profile, and then there's also the GNC Autobody profile, but there is Patrick Crozat on there for myself. So that would be the best way to reach out to me if you're on LinkedIn. Otherwise, there is our company website that you could reach out to just get a hold of me on there. My email is my first initial, P, then Crozat, Crozat, at g&cautobuy.com. Shoot me an email.
Fantastic, man. I will be sure to put all those links in the show notes to make that easy for folks. You're very generous with your time. I very much appreciate you and wish you continued success. Patrick Crozat, thank you so much for joining us today on the Collision Vision.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you again to Patrick Crozat for joining us on today's show. With GNC's crazy growth and the exciting growth of Pat's own family, he's a busy guy, and I appreciate him taking the time to come educate us on using insurance relationships to grow our businesses. At the very end there, Pat painted a very clear picture around growth, showing the roadmap of exactly how using insurance relationships to go from 1 store to 2 and beyond is attainable. He also showed us what it looks like to have a fully built out DRP and insurance serving engine, and some of the baby steps to get there eventually. Really, really good stuff. That's all for today's show. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to tune in next week for another episode in our series on navigating insurance and repairs. And if you're enjoying your listening and viewing experience here on the Collision Vision, please be sure to hit that follow button wherever you enjoy your podcast or on YouTube, where the Collision Vision lives in video form. And please be sure to leave a review and go ahead and share us with your network as well. As always, on behalf of the Auto Body News team and myself, thank you for coming along for the ride.